Hello, Ron Briggs, Blackmore, Vale Honey, and welcome back to the channel. So this episode is a standalone episode, not part of any of the series, because this one we're going to be looking at sugar syrup. So there are occasions then when we need to feed our bees. We'll need to feed our bees maybe if we've collected a swarm, just to help them build out some comb. If there's a shortage of food, so there's a shortage of forage available, if they've not got enough stores to get them through the winter, or if you're doing a manipulation and you need to build them up for whatever reason, or indeed if you need to build them up for a particular crop that you're wanting to get the bees onto. So that's what we're going to look at today. So I think we've already spoken about fondant on previous videos. So fondant or other types of solid feed like candy praline, etc. We'll do for queen rearing maybe, or maybe at the beginning of the year, sort of January, February time, if they do need feed, and if you're building them up for a crop. So for example, you might be building your colony up to get them onto the rape early in the season. But all other times of the year, or all other types of feed, is normally done with sugar syrup, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So sugar syrup is simply sugar and water. That's all it is. And there's two types of sugar syrup that we make. There is heavy syrup and light syrup. So the heavy syrup is what we'll give to the bees usually in the autumn, because the difference between heavy and light is the amount of water that's in there. And the bees have to get that water out of there before it's good enough for them to store and good enough to eat. So when we're going into the winter, we want as least amount of water in there as possible. Now, some of the stuff you can buy commercially, things like ambrosia syrup, you can buy that commercially. And the sugar content, the moisture content is a lot less, but it's really difficult to get the moisture content that low. So unless you're buying it commercially, if you're making your own, then 2 to 1 is kind of the best you can do. What I mean by 2 to 1 is 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. And then in the summer, we're trying to tell the bees that there's a flow on, so lots of nectar available. And then we'll make a light syrup, which is a 1 to 1. So 1 part sugar to 1 part water. And in the good old bad old days, when it was pounds and pints before we went metric, it was exactly that. So 1 pound of sugar to 1 pint of water. Or when we're doing the 2 to 1, it was 2 pounds of sugar to 1 pint of water. So that's the measurements we're going on. So what I'm going to be making today is some light syrup, because I need some light syrup. I've got a couple of nukes and things that have just been split. They need feeding and I haven't got any light syrup. So we're going to make some up. So light syrup, 1 to 1, 1 part sugar, 1 part water. And that's 1 pound of sugar to 1 pint of water. Except the problem is nowadays is that we're in kilos. We don't buy our sugar in pounds anymore. We buy them in kilos. So strictly speaking, that upsets the apple cart a little bit, because for the purist amongst you, if you do the maths, you'll work out it isn't exactly 1 to 1. It's a little bit less than that, because pounds and pints don't equate the same as kilos and litres. That said, I don't think it really matters. I think the pound to pints came out. I mean, if you take that back to when we had pounds and pints, there was no real experiments being done or real science behind the fact that that's what the feed was. That was just what was done by the beekeepers. So I think if it had been metric, they'd have probably done exactly the same. They'd have done 1 litre to a kilo. So that's all I do. And that's all I've been doing for X amount of years. And it doesn't seem to affect the bees at all. So I keep life simple, and simple for me is 1 kilo of sugar to 1 litre of water. And so today, I want to knock up maybe two to three of these. That's what I need. So I've already put 10 litres of water in here. Now I'll put the last 4 litres in. So there's my 14 litres of water. Let me show you what I'm using. So I'm using one of these. It's an old-fashioned Burco boiler. It's been tested for electricity, but it's not what you could use in today. They wouldn't like it, because the difference with these old ones is that they'll just keep boiling. There's no cut-off switch to them, which is obviously a little bit dangerous. So that's important. If you're going to use an old one of these, they're brilliant for knocking up sugar. They're brilliant for boiling frames, but do not leave them unattended, because they will boil dry and cause you problems if you're not careful. So I've tipped 14 litres of water into there. So because it's 1-to-1, I now need to put 14 kilos of sugar in. So let's get on and do that. Okay, so we've added our sugar now. So now you notice I've put the Burco up on blocks, and there's also going to be a block for when I put the container underneath. So you might think, why is that on blocks then? Because what it does, it means that when we come towards the end, we can take those front blocks out and tilts it forward. Makes it easier for us to get the rest of the syrup out rather than trying to add a block afterwards. So that's all that's for. Right, and then the sugar has been added in there. It's a bit lumpy at the moment. So sugar's been added, and we're on medium heat on the Burco. So what we're going to use to mix up the sugar is a paint paddle with a drill. So don't later on in the year you'll see me using my paddle for creaming honey. That's not the same paddle as this one. So that is a stainless steel one designed for creaming honey. Comes from beekeeping supplies, and it's for human consumption. This is a paint paddle which is designed for mixing up plaster and paint and the likes for DIY stuff. But it works perfectly for mixing up sugar for the bees. So on the end of a drill, and it just mixes it up. The drill as well, when you see me do the creaming, you'll notice that all my stuff for my DIY, if you've watched previous videos, is all DeWalt. But the drill that I use for creaming the honey is a standalone drill, different colour, different make, and it's not used for anything else other than creaming the honey. So just to get that clear. And then all we do is mix up our sugar solution with this. Okay, so when that has completely dissolved, and you can see all the way to, especially when it's a light syrup, you can see all the way to the bottom, so you can see everything's dissolved. But top tip, have a bucket of water if you're going to use this method, because what it's really easy to do then, the moment you take anything out of there and put it down, it starts to get sticky. So if you have a bucket of water ready, put that straight into the water, spin it up, and then that's almost half cleaned anyway. And all you got to do is take the drill off, and all you got to do is take the attachment out. Your drill's nice and clean. That can stay in there till you're ready to clean. Simples. That's it. Once it's all dissolved, just pour it into your container. You put it in any container that's going to hold liquid. And you can scale this to any size you want. So if you only got 1 or 2 hives, you're not going to need this much sugar syrup. So just mix up accordingly. So I usually always do it in 2 kilos, because obviously a bag is 2 kilos, bag of sugar. So 2 kilos, 2 litres of water, mix it up. You don't want to pan on the hob. Just be careful though, because if you spill any of it at all, it gets really sticky. So, and if she who must be a bays finds it sticky, you're in trouble. So yeah, go careful. Now you see the reason for me having this up on blocks. Just allows me to tip it forward easier. Okay, so that was that. So we got it mixed up. We got it into the bottles. I've just let it cool down a little bit. And whilst it was cooling down, I just did a quick wash up of the equipment. That's really simple. Just don't anything more than wash, take it outside, give it a quick hose down. I did dry it because I do like to dry my stuff before I put it away, but that's all we need to do with that. Now there's one more thing we can do, which I do, is we can add some thymol. So for all those that have already fed sugar syrup to your bees, you know, sometimes it goes a bit mouldy in the feeders. And also if you keep it around for any length of time, it can go a bit mouldy in the containers. So we can use thymol. You get it in crystals. And what it does, you mix it with meths and it just extends that shelf life, which is really useful, especially with your summer stuff, because you can put your feed on for a few days, put it away, wash it, jobs are good, and you ain't got none of that mould. And also, if you have any left over, it don't go as mouldy so quickly. So this lot come from Thorns. I got 100 grams of it, and it goes a long way. I've had this for quite a long time. The only reason I keep the pot knocking around is because it's got the instructions on it. This is 100 grams. You mix 50 grams with a quarter of a litre, 0.25 of a litre. So obviously 100 grams, half a litre of meths. So that's what I did. I've got my, it was a water bottle I was given by Screwfix, and that just took exactly the right amount, and it's marked on their meths. This though lasts a long time. I've had this for 2, maybe 3 years. It does go a long way. So it might be more than what your needs are. So if you're new to beekeeping and you've been on a course, I don't know, maybe with another few beekeepers, and go halves, mix it up and go halves or something. And then what you do with that then you, once you've got that mixed, you put then a teaspoon of this into 13.5 litres of your liquid. Right, so 1 teaspoon, 13.5 litres. Now a teaspoon is 5 millilitres. So one of these pipettes does exactly 5 millilitres. So let me show you how I do that. Obviously it goes without saying, if you're going to mix up in something like this, make sure this is well out of the way of the kiddies and the grandchildren, etc. You don't want to have a drink of that. So yeah, so these pipettes, if they're full, they take 5 millilitres, so a teaspoon. Each one of these full, which is where they are about now, is 12.5 litres, and it's 1 teaspoon to 13.5 litres. So in each one of these, it's just off the top, I don't know, maybe 4.5 millilitres, something like that. Well, that's 3. There we go. Just over 4.5. Same with that one. And then this one is on the end, there's a 5 litre one, so that's just under about 2 millilitres in that one. It doesn't have to be precise. So there we go. That's all we do with that. And I'm not going to shake them yet because they're still a bit warm, so I'm going to let them cool down. And then what we'll simply do is shake them up, give them a bit of a shake, and that's job done. So there we are then, job done. So the last thing you need to do is just to mark them. So look, I know it's old markings, but you can just about make it out. So they're marked up as light syrup. You don't want to get it mixed up with your heavy syrup and feeding it wrong time of year. It just makes it difficult for the bees. So there we are. So we'll let that cool off. We'll put the lids back on, and then that'll be ready to feed to the bees. Okay, so that's that little job done. Another little job out the way. That should be enough now for me to last me for the rest of the season. So we'll end the video there. I hope you got something from it, and I will see you on the next one.